Ministry of Timelines After Action Report, Alexandros Timeline. All quiet on this front. For now. Possible chronal weapon signatures detected. Pre-images only. Year 2200 of the Alexandrian Common Era, and Alexander Revanch Prasad got off to a swimming start by ordering Poseidon to be renamed Poseidon. There was a minor spelling error in all official documentation on the planet. It was his first official act of office. Official. Celebrations on Gaia by the middle of the year, as the first extra helioic journey was deemed a huge success. A science team with a specially designed locomotive made use of a hyperlane to travel to Alpha Centauri, the nearest star, heralding the age of the space trains. Choo choo. With space trains came prosperity, and before the first month of the following year had concluded, the government used their newfound resources well, lifting millions across the empire out of poverty. A brighter future for all citizens. The glorious empire established its first off-world colony in late 2204. In order to survive the harsh environment of Hermes, known as Every in some mythologies, its proximity to Helios making it a hellish fireworld, the colony actually constituted an enormous train. The train stretched for miles and crawled its way across the night side of the planet to avoid the searing heat of Helios. Where anti-grav trains and superluminal spaceflight have become the norm, our leader stood as a staunch advocate against alternatives in transportation. It was said that the Alexander, with his impeccably tailored intergalactic suit and futuristic monocle, had a financial stranglehold on the transportation industry. Critics suggested that the more credits flowed into the anti-grav development, the wider Alexander's smile became. He insisted that independent pods were a fad, and passionately argued for the timeless elegance of trains, keying in on themes of train nationalism, locomotivism, and historic train pride, and the girth of his wallet. At the end of 2205, barely 2 years since the first off-world colony had been established, a great very large train, or VLT, carrying the first ever Homo sapiens sent to settle another star system, left the Helios system. The target was the third planet orbiting Alpha Centauri, which became known as the colony of Arcadia, probably because of the asteroids and space invaders. In 2208, scientists exploring the Minor Lalva system discovered remnants of a six-limbed mammalian race that had held sway over that part of the galaxy almost 1 million years before. The lead archaeologists speculated that some sort of plague may have led to the downfall of the Eurasian Concordat, as they came to be known. The discovery of an ancient precursor civilization rocked the empire, in a proper Sisyphean rocking kind of way. Conspiracy theorists went wild, claiming these Eurasians clearly must have built the hyperlane network, much like they did the pyramids. Editorial Ministry note: the Eurasian Concordat, along with a half-dozen or so other precursors, tend to recur in our timeline surveys across many chronological forks, but are located in various locations in the galaxy, and seem to have had different foes and challenges. However, in all timelines, it seems that the Javorian pox brought an end to the Eurasians. Further inquiry into the terrifying possibility of cross-temporal plagues is a necessity. More multi-limbed space creatures in 2210, as scientific space train Zephyr encountered enormous spacefaring beasts in the Amor Alveo system. Fascinated by this new species, the scientists maneuvered closer to study them, and then came under attack, the Leviathans attempting to crush and eat the Zephyr. Thankfully, before their ship was smashed, Diogenes of Sparta was able to escape into the celestial rail network, at which point Stavros suggested that VLTs maybe shouldn't be painted to look like kebabs, despite their long-standing heritage as the food of the gods. A vote to impeach Alexander Rayanch Prasad was held in the same year, for supposedly having anti-Fordist opinions. This was of course absurd and did not break any laws, even if it was true, which it might have been. Public opinion held that any commission carrying out an investigation into a possible impeachment would come up empty-handed, as well as being a great waste of money. But spending a lot of money on something pointless is why so many get into politics, and Congress voted for it anyway. As the Alexander had not been swayed from embracing anti-grav train travel over the completely unsupported and wasteful ground-based pods, the Fordists were in uproar. Their mad butthurt, trademark pending, campaign sought to impeach the great leader, accusing him of betraying the joy of tire-squealing adventures. The impeachment would come after his term had ended, and could only be seen as virtue signalling to their deplorable supporters, damnable Fordists. 2215. As Alexandros and his chief strategist Pericles were speculating on the existence of intelligent life capable of conversing with humans, they were interrupted by a transmission from the depths of space. A hologram appeared, vaguely human-shaped but composed of metal and energy. It was a small drone of the Gestalt consciousness calling itself the Life Improvement Directive, expressing a desire to augment and uplift humankind. It denied any suggestion that there was pain or strife in the process of cybernetic transformation, claiming that it was only a minor surgical procedure, much like having one's tonsils removed, or having one's skin flayed from the body to be replaced with molten chrome, or as painless as a haircut. They are good robots that want to better you. The Alexander was skeptical of their motives to improve life quality of organics. Hemmed in at Alcasan, life improvement robots to the west, and a space locust storm to the east, Alexander gave the order to research a means to pass by the hostile space amoebas of the Amor Alveo system peacefully. The project would take vast resources, but success would pacify the amoebas and allow the space rails to continue deeper into the galaxy. Empire of Alexandros spies, working to hack the LID interstellar communication starbases, determined in 2219 that the machines had recently invaded a pre-FTL civilization. Having settled the world, which lay within their claimed sphere, the robots had actively assimilated the people there. Shocked by the news, Congress voted to move to a military-focused economy in preparation for conflict with the machines of the Directive. Despite delivering on his promises to build many very large trains, or VLTs, to the hip youngsters and bring them to every world in the Empire's space, Alexander Rayanch Prasad was ousted by Congress in the 2220 election. He was replaced with a new Alexander, Yunyang of Ceres. She was a renowned artisan in her spare time. An intelligent species calling themselves the Nachiklax Freeholders was met later in the year of 2220. The chief strategist Pericles described their culture as Proto-Thracian. Concerns were raised about potential issues with raids in the future, as well as issues with dictionaries and spell checkers in the present. Not a year later, the renowned paragon Zosira Khatun was met. This cyclopean figure offered to join the Empire, and despite a short deliberation about how they might struggle to integrate into our society, consensus was reached that how would we as Greeks be able to turn away a Cyclops from our very own history books? The gods truly shone down upon us. Zosira immediately got to work revolutionizing research protocols across the provinces. The Union of Krith was met in 2222. Shortly after diplomatic channels were opened, the Empire duly informed them about the butchery of the Life Improvement Directive. The Krith found it hard to believe, but after an appeal to their morality, pointing out that they too would be assimilated if left unchecked, as well as a slideshow of graphic images detailing the assimilation process, the Krith were convinced. During talks with the Krith, the Empire of Alexandros decrypted communications from the Covenant of Bira. The Empire was initially amazed that they were communicating with talking rocks, until the Bira expressed their astonishment that sacks of meat could be intelligent. The Empire duly informed the rocks of the Life Improvement Directive and their genocidal intents, but the rocks could barely look past what they saw as meat bags spewing gases to talk, laughing every time our ambassadors spoke, making farting noises in mimicry. They did not care for the directive, seeing themselves as superior, and believing all primitive offal sacks deserved what was coming to them. It was believed that the Covenant of Bira would continue to be friendly with the Life Improvement Directive after communications. Negotiations having broken down after a gift of rock sent to them was eaten, the human taboo of cannibalism apparently lost on the rocks. The Eurasian Dimensional Commonwealth was met in late 2222. Diplomatic negotiations were postponed until further notice. There had been simply too many meetings recently, and the diplomats wanted time to play with their scale-modelled train sets. The Galcom was founded at the start of 2223. Finally, we could get things done, through the ever-efficient medium of interpretive debate and endless pontification. Empire negotiations with the Eurasians began in 2224, where everyone celebrated the birthday of one of their diplomats. The diplomat in question immediately requested gifts, and was even more immediately sacked and replaced by someone with a touch more diplomatic talent. The Empire brought up the Life Improvement Directive, where the ambassadors then squabbled over the name of the Empire. Another appeal to morality was met with a response that the Eurasians needed to study the Life Improvement Directive before making any decisions or agreements. The Alexander at the time was adamant that they should believe us with no proof needed. The construction of a rift sphere in Eurasian space began the next year. As news spread of the construction, a wave of excitement gave way to nervous anticipation across the Eurasian Commonwealth. They were finally ready to explore the anomaly that had hung above their world for almost all of their recorded history, like some kind of sword. Derek's, I think. With the economy struggling, there being no less than 5 new worlds in the midst of being colonized, and no firm plan to address the growing Fordisk crisis, the Alexander seemed convinced that uniting the galaxy against the Life Improvement Directive's alleged genocide was the key to universal harmony. The galaxy rolled its eyes, unconvinced about any truth to these allegations. Spies within the LID discovered a plot being planned by the Covenant, designed to sour relations between the Empire and the LID. Given that relations couldn't get much worse, with the Empire actively accusing the LID of genocide to anyone who would listen, and even those who wouldn't, the phrase "dumb as a rock" enjoyed a brief renaissance. A mysterious ticking was heard in the system containing New Galatea, a key manufacturing planet. The ticking was traced to a device within the system that was counting down to something. After much deliberation about what to do, Strategos Pericles reasoned that if we destroyed it, we would be setting the precedent that machines weren't alive. Avoiding the urge to say, well, duh, it was diplomatically accepted that the clock could be a new form of life. Others argued that it was clearly a bomb, and could someone please just dismantle it for safety's sake? And then a compromise was reached to instead study the device, much to the irritation of many on New Galatea. What if it was a big bomb? The construction of the Rift Sphere was completed in 2228. A key scientist was recalled from exploration duties to head the first expedition into the spatial rift. The speech she gave on entering, "But I don't wanna," was quite stirring, and will be echoed through the generations. In the whimsical realm of galactic governance, the Alexander once again showcased his masterful political acrobatics. With the finesse of a seasoned performer, he proposed a groundbreaking act only to passionately denounce it moments later. It's almost as if he was suggesting the bill just for the thrill of a dramatic U-turn. Meanwhile, in other riveting news, the politicians were left to ponder the mysteries of political intrigue over a slice of cake, because when in doubt, cake always steals the show, even in the theatre of cosmic absurdity. The proposal was called the Galactic Charter of Workers' Rights. Apparently, a key delegate had accidentally slipped and proposed the extensive 500-page manifesto. Needless to say, the bill failed. The Aurasians' first attempt at astral splitting in 2231 was successful in opening a second astral rift, this one in the Klendath system. Perhaps the borders of reality were weakening, just a bit. Drama rocked the galactic community in 2236. When it comes to exterminating a hive mind, one might ponder the existential question of mere inconvenience versus full-blown genocide. Was squashing a swarm of interconnected critters the equivalent of swatting a particularly persistent space mosquito, or had an entire civilization of tiny, synchronized intellectuals just been wiped out? The universe might never reach a consensus, but hey, at least you could claim you single-handedly brought an entire hive mind book club to an untimely end. Talk about literary carnage. Spies reported that a primitive world in Covenant space was given to the Life Improvement Directive, who promptly invaded and attempted to uplift the natives with extensive use of both surgery and high-caliber arms fire. Unfortunately, the species rejected the implants as much as they did the bullets, and the entire race died within the space of a few months. But they were a hive mind, so swings and roundabouts? The Life Improvement Directive admitted to the genocide of pre-sapient life forms in 2236. Despite their arguments that it wasn't really a species and only a hive mind, a vote to denounce and remove the LID from the community formed to guide and safeguard the galaxy passed 4-3. They showed a total lack of remorse or even understanding why the organic life forms of the galaxy found their cybernetic enslavement of other species reprehensible. With a huff, the LID drone left the council saying, "How typical for you all to rather be sad and unimproved." After they permitted the genocide of a species within their borders, the Covenant of Bira was also kicked from the community in another 4-3 vote. The argument stood that while they did not commit the crime, they did permit it while remaining financially neutral. The two charges were that either it was genocide and the committer should be removed from the Galcom for the safety of all members involved, or it was murder and the machine intelligence who did it should be tried and imprisoned for its crimes against morality. In the vote held, the Empire of Alexandros was the final nail in the coffin of the decision to expel the Covenant. Also, who are those three consistently voting in the galactic community that were not bothered about genocide? Is no one else concerned by that? Spies within the Life Improvement Directive confirmed that the Empire of Alexandros had reached an important objective in late 2237, rough military parity with the LID. Should hostilities break out with the Driven Assimilators, the designation the Strategos' staff had termed the machines, their ships would not be outweighed on paper. A real field test was not forthcoming, however, as a sheet of paper big enough could not be sourced. Scholar Diophus returned from the first rift at the end of 2239 in Aurasian space. The anomaly had apparently led to an alternate reality, one that contained the Aurasians' ancestral home. There, the scientist had been successful in helping his ancestors repel an attack from invaders unknown, saving it from that grave threat. A national holiday was declared in the Aurasian Dimensional Republic upon their return, and they even brought back a representative scientist from their ancestors as an ambassador and historian. The Aurasians then knew there were other worlds out there, other universes, and that they had come from one of them. After extensive diplomatic negotiations, which included province taxes and species living standards, the Union of Krith agreed to join the Empire of Alexandros as the 11th province in 2239. Integration was brought up as a possibility, but it was decided to make it a later decision. The province of Krith had a relatively low population with two very small colonies on the way, making them similar to the planetary province of Arcadia, despite spanning across many star systems. The further cooperation within the Empire of Alexandros reinvigorated its internal politics, bringing up further discussions, like how to deal with the directive, and the perennial favourite, Why won't humans leave to settle the comfortable Gaia worlds in the Krith province? In 2243, the Empire of Alexandros successfully revived the Azizian, a giant race of monstrous space slugs, on the planet of New Galatea. Only time would tell if this would be a mistake, and if the Empire would need to research giant salt shakers. In 2245, the Life Improvement Directive stumbled upon the idea of consent, a concept that made little sense to the Central Intelligence that had been tasked with improving the lives of all those around them. Further investigation and live experimentation revealed that the LID's cybernetic upgrades had been suppressing emotion. When the LID deactivated the offending devices and attempted to retroactively offer a choice to the Pithok people, they immediately revolted, declaring a new independent state, the Pithok Republic. Later that same year, the Krith fleet was lost in its entirety while investigating a spatial anomaly. In response, the provincial government decided to fully integrate into the Empire of Alexandros to ensure the safety and ongoing stability of their people. This concludes the analysis of humanity's first contacts in this timeline. Please refer to the next chapter of this report for further details on the Alexandros timeline.